Can I buy that camera, sir? I only have $750.
That camera costs $12, boy.
How a homeless black teen used a $12 camera to outsmart Jim Crow. Let's take it back to the late 1930s. The radio hums softly in the background. Billie Holiday is singing, her voice slow, haunting, and heavy with truth. The kind of voice that doesn't just entertain, it exposes. Her voice was a sound that continued to linger in the room long after the song was over. During that time in America, truth didn't come easy. It had to be sung and be shown. And sometimes, it had to be fought for. In a country still gripped by Jim Crow laws, a teenage boy was learning that survival itself was an act of resistance. His name was Gordon Parks. He was born on November 30th, 1912 in Fort Scott, Kansas, the youngest of 15 children in a black sharecropping family. His father worked the land, growing crops like corn, turnips, potatoes, and collard greens, raising animals just to keep the family going. From the beginning, life was structured against him. He attended segregated schools where expectations were already limited. Even in classrooms where black and white students sat together, the divide was clear. They were forced to attend one school due to how rural the area was. Black students were excluded from sports, pushed out of social life, and quietly discouraged from dreaming bigger. At one point, a white teacher told him directly that college would be a waste of money. That's how early the system tried to break him, and the lessons didn't just stop in the classroom. As a child, Parks was thrown into a river by white boys who assumed he wouldn't make it out. He barely survived. But moments like that teach you something early. Survival is not guaranteed. Then came loss. At just 14 years old, his mother died. That night, he stayed beside her cool body, trying to process something no child should face alone. He would even sleep outside by her grave because he was just that heartbroken. By 15, he was completely on his own. After being sent to Minnesota, tensions with family led to him being put out. The teenager had no warning and no safety net. From that moment forward, he was homeless. He survived however he could, working in brothels as a server, washing dishes, playing piano, singing, traveling from place to place, even playing semi-pro basketball. At one point, he worked in an elite club where, for the first time, he was surrounded by wealth, and more importantly, access to books. For a brief moment, knowledge became his escape. Then the Wall Street crash of 1929 hit and everything collapsed again. Jobs disappeared. Stability vanished. He moved through cities like Chicago, picking up whatever work he could find, sometimes living in flop houses just to have somewhere to sleep. This era was marked by immense struggle, and Gordon did what he always did, and that was to survive in a system that had written so many people off just like him. And then everything changed. He walked into a pawn shop. The camera he saw was priced at $12, money he didn't have. Not even close. But instead of turning him away, the clerk saw something in him and made a decision. He allowed Parks to take the camera for just $750. That decision didn't look like much, but it was. This moment would change the course of his life forever. Parks understood something critical. Under Jim Crow, whoever controlled the image controlled the narrative, and he was about to take that control back. He taught himself photography. He had no formal training, connections. He had just observation, discipline, and instinct, plus natural-born talent. When he developed his first photographs, even the people at the photo counter recognized something in his work. This teen had something you could not buy, and that was talent. By 1942, he had joined the Farm Security Administration, documenting poverty across America. But Parks wasn't just taking pictures, he was building evidence. And here's the part most people don't think about. You see, taking those photos wasn't safe, especially during Jim Crow, because what Parks was capturing wasn't just everyday life, it was evidence. These photos captured the proof of segregation, poverty, and harm against black people. This was the evidence that was supposed to remain hidden and unknown. And in that time, exposing the truth could get you threatened, followed, or worse. A black man walking into certain spaces with a camera, pointing a lens at inequality, wasn't just documenting history. He was challenging power. That camera in his hands wasn't just a tool. What he was doing was very risky. Then came one of his most powerful photographs, American Gothic, Washington, D.C. A black woman stands in front of the American flag holding a mop and broom. Behind her, America's promise, in front of it, the truth. That's how Parks outsmarted Jim Crow. Soon, he began working for Life magazine, becoming its first black staff photographer. That meant millions of Americans were now seeing images they had never been forced to confront. He documented Harlem families, systemic poverty, and figures like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. But more importantly, he showed black life with dignity, and that changed everything. Working at Life was not without criticism from some black people who felt like he was showing black life through a white lens and making certain black people look bad, such as showing too much poverty and black men in jail. And still with the criticism, Parks continued pushing photography even further. During his time working with fashion publications like Vogue, he experimented with capturing models in motion and stillness, creating a more dynamic, almost cinematic style that challenged traditional photography. Even there, racism followed him, and yet he kept creating. Then Parks moved beyond photography. In 1971, he directed Shaft, becoming one of the first black Americans to direct a major Hollywood studio film and helping usher in the blaxploitation era. He also contributed to expanding black media platforms connected to Essence, helping elevate black voices in publishing. But even with all that success, his life was not untouched by tragedy. He lost his son in a plane crash. And yet, he kept going. Because Gordon Parks was not just a photographer. He was an accomplished pianist, a director, a visionary artist, and a businessman who helped shape black media. Despite a start in life that could have defined his limits, he proved something else entirely. That determination, real determination, can push past what the world says is impossible. A man of remarkable strength, a former homeless teenager, a $12 camera, and nothing but pure talent showed how brave we should all be. Gordon Parks passed away at the age of 93, but his work never disappeared. Today, his legacy lives on through institutions like the Library of Congress, where his photography, writing, and films are preserved. His autobiographical film, The Learning Tree, remains a lasting reflection of his journey, from hardship to history. Parks once said the camera was his weapon, not of violence, but of truth. Because Jim Crow depended on silence, and he refused to stay quiet. Scope News tells the truth. Here are the facts. Historical archives, biographies, and museum records confirm Gordon Parks' rise from teenage homelessness to becoming the first black staff photographer at Life magazine. His work with the Farm Security Administration, his influence in fashion photography, and his groundbreaking role directing Shaft. His legacy continues through preserved collections and documented contributions to American culture and media. Legal disclaimer. This content is for educational and informational purposes. Some details are simplified for storytelling clarity. Viewer discretion is advised when discussing historical topics related to racism and inequality.